Hey, you're listening to episode 22 of the TA Pedals podcast. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Stephon.
Good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
How's it going?
Good.
We are on the third part of our welcome back to Alien Talk with TA Pedals. Yeah, we're doing the third part of our Alien Talk, and we're going to make this our final one for this series for now. And we got some facts.
Got some facts.
Oh, yeah.
It's fact time.
So, yeah.
I think we should note that this is being recorded at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Again.
So we're slightly delusional. So the ideas and the things that we're talking about don't help that at all. It's going to get weird probably again.
I was literally asleep until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I saw your text and I walked to my front door and let you in. I was awake for probably 20 seconds this morning before I saw you. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But, you know, in this Oklahoma heat, it's hard to do things after the sun comes up. And I need to mow my yard today. So I was like, let's get this podcast done. And I'm going to go mow my yard once I can see outside. And then I'll just get sleep later. I'll take a nap whenever my son does. So it is what it is.
Good idea.
Yeah.
My wife wants me to cut her hair today, so I have to do that before I can go back to sleep.
Oh, jeez. Well, I guess let's get into it. So, you know, last week we were talking about the pyramids and how they were built and whether we have been visited by extraterrestrial, intergalactic, possibly life, and how that could be possible and the things that would need to be in place before we could consider something like that to be plausible. But today I want to talk about the fact that the Pentagon has confirmed several videos of what they call UAPs. Have you heard that term?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who doesn't know, that stands for unidentified aerial phenomena, which is kind of a broader term as opposed to the older term UFO for unidentified flying object. UAP, I guess, would include any sort of, you know,
it's not
sighting.
It's not necessarily flying. It's just something that's in the air that you can't identify.
Yeah, and it would include things that aren't even physical objects, just anything that you can see in the sky that you can't explain by conventional means.
Yeah.
And so the Pentagon has released, let me get my notes here so I don't get this wrong. They released...
Yeah, we're sleepy.
They released 3 videos. They were called FLIR, Gimbal, and Go Fast. And you can find those all on the official Pentagon website, so you know it's legit. They released them in 2020. And I watched the videos. It pretty much is like black and white footage of like a UAP being tracked by professional, experienced fighter pilots with precision technology. And they tracked it going from 30,000 feet to just above sea level in less than a second. And I think it's the Go Fast video, if I'm remembering correctly, that tracks a UAP that was shaped like a Tic Tac. and they said that with like thermal imaging and with they saw it, with their eyes as well. They said that it showed no signs of any sort of engine, and with the thermal imaging, they saw no exhaust coming off, and so they had no idea how this craft was propelling itself. And they said that based on the way that it moved, there it was far beyond even the most top secret technological advances of the U.S. military. And so that kind of, I think, freaked them out, and they were engaged with this craft for quite a while. I think it was 3 different pilots, and so the fact that like the U.S. government is acknowledging the existence of these craft kind of throws me off a little bit. There is an Indiana representative named Andre Carson. He is the chairman of the House Intelligence Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and it's early Counterproliferation subcommittee, and he said that UAPs are a potential national security threat, and we need to take them seriously. And I think this was like a press conference, and so I don't know if you've seen like the videos in the past where they've held press conferences to address people seeing aliens and things, and like they blew it off. They blew it off as a joke, like even going so far as to say we made contact with the alien, and then they brought a guy out like in an alien suit, like with a big head, and like made fun of it, and like dismissed it. And now they're like, hey, just kidding. It's actually kind of real. We are seeing things that we can't explain. But yeah, like not that long ago, they were still in denial about
making
the whole
fun
thing.
of it.
Mm-hmm. And
that's our typical government, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's like they are trying to divert people's attention and be like, that's silly. If you believe in this stuff, it's pretty silly. There's, I guess, this effort to divert people away from believing that there could be a threat to national security. And, they're not going to, no matter how they do it, no matter what they eventually say that these UAPs are or whatever, they're not just going to come out and say, hey, aliens do exist and we've been in contact with them for 60 years or whatever. They would do it the way they're doing it now. I guess they would slowly leak information to the public until they got people comfortable with the idea, because if they didn't, it would create mass hysteria. Well, I mean, maybe not now, but
I mean,
can you imagine like 100 years ago?
There's been enough people who have been, on the verge of believing this idea, that I don't think that it would cause panic. It's already one of those things that it's like we've been talking about it for years and years and years, and it's really not like a big deal anymore.
But that's what I'm saying, is we've been talking about it for years and years and years. But if you were to go back before it was being talked about to, say Roswell and the weather balloon, quote unquote, and then like, can you imagine if they found an alien craft, and then that day they were just like, hey, yeah, aliens are definitely real? People would freak out. They freaked out just because there was a movie, Mars Attacks and stuff like that. Like, people were freaking out about that.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, like, even if you don't confirm it, they're still talking about it and thinking about it. So it's not one of those, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's just like peel the Band-Aid off, get it over with.
But I think that's what they're scared of is, and I mean, there are a lot of people talking about this now, but you got to realize that like there are a lot of people who aren't too. I would say probably 50% of people probably don't think about aliens at all.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they can't really say that now that it's been confirmed that there's something out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't know what it is.
But I think it would definitely freak people out.
I mean,
but I don't know.
no matter what it is, if it's not from planet Earth, it is considered to be alien.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. But either way, it's just weird that the Pentagon is acknowledging it now publicly.
Yeah.
And they actually put out the videos saying like, here's the craft.
Here's I have an issue with the thing that you said about the guy said that it's a national security threat or whatever. If whatever it is has technology far more advanced than what we're capable of currently, we shouldn't. It doesn't. It's kind of pointless to consider it a threat or not a threat because no matter whatever their intentions are, they're going to accomplish those.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do to stop it if it's at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's what he's saying. I think that's why it's a threat. I don't think he's saying we can meet that threat. I think he's just like, hey, if this is happening, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not. He said it's a potential threat, but they're saying like we don't know if it's a threat because we don't even know what this is. So if we don't know what it is and it defies the laws of physics, we're in trouble. If these things are that we have captured on film and measured their velocity, if it is what it seems to be, we could be in trouble. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're right, yeah.
If it defies the laws of physics.
Yeah, like what are you going to do about that? I've read
it could be here 1 second and across the world in another second. What are we gonna do about that?
Yeah,
we can't travel that fast.
And if you listen to the interviews with I think it's Commander David Fravor, who is like a very experienced pilot. He's the one who was serving on the USS Nimitz, and he was one of the pilots engaged with the UAP, the Tic Tac. And he said, like, after being engaged with it for a while, it, like, flew off at an incredible speed. And he said that they didn't know where it went. And then they were supposed to check in with, like, their rendezvous point where they were originally supposed to be going. And so once they lost it, they reported that they lost it. And then the base was like, hey, we found it. It's here. And so, like, it knew where they were going before they started going there. And it was, like, waiting on them. And so, like, not only was it able to fly off at an incredible speed, it went to where they were supposed to be before they went there. So, and it was actively jamming their radar. I forgot to mention that. I guess, like, it was messing with their instruments after a minute or whatever.
It's freaking me out.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I'm serious. You remember those freaky stories that we were talking about several episodes ago where, like, Sydney and I saw the thing in the sky and it, like, shot off or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
that could have been one of those things.
That's what it makes me think of, and that's why it is so scary to me even to this day, because now we have confirmation of these things, and what I saw didn't match up with what we're talking about today, but I still saw something.
It's
and
like
I'm like, what's going on?
it's like it's trying to play with us.
Mhm.
It's like, catch me over here. Oh, catch me over here. Catch me over here. Haha, I beat you here. Haha. We raced and I won. Now I'm gonna tickle you with messing with your radar.
And then I don't know, something that we haven't talked about, and I didn't show you before we started recording, but have you seen the video of the light over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem?
From like 10 years ago.
It's pretty old.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's like a light that's hovering right above the peak of the temple, and then like you can see like it's like rotating or something. Like the light is shifting, and then it shoots straight up into the air. And I was like, okay, like that could easily be faked with like visual effects and stuff. But then like they found out that someone else saw it too and had a video from a separate angle, like that was some distance away. So like two different people caught it on camera, and it was just this light hovering above the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and then shoots off at some insane speed.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I saw both videos, and I was like, that's pretty convincing too. I don't know what it is, but like something was there for sure. It's all weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like yesterday, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but we were talking about the whole light years thing. Do you want to get into that, or you want to skip over it?
I don't know. Like, I don't really. I've come to the conclusion that I just don't know enough about that kind of stuff to, make assumptions or come up with ideas anymore.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Oh, well, we'll just say this, just to shorten it down into kind of what we were talking about yesterday. We were talking yesterday about what it means that planets and different things, like especially Earth-like planets, are light years away. And for anyone who's not familiar with light years, that's just the distance that light travels in 1 year.
Basically, if you were to blink a light, it would take a year. Like the distance it would travel in a year is considered to be a light year.
Right. And if we're talking about how fast light travels,
which we decided to figure out.
Yeah.
It's 670 million miles per hour.
Yeah.
Approximately. I don't know the exact other numbers within there, but it's about that.
Yeah, specifically, it says about 670,616,629.
Yeah.
So it's really, really fast. And the fastest spacecraft that we have ever created, I guess, floating through space, turns out to be 300,000 kilometers per second, or 186,000 miles per hour. I'm sorry, 186,000 miles per second.
I thought we looked up something that said that
you're right,
450,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, you're right. I got that wrong. Forgive me. Fastest.
I mean, I can see that that's the fastest. I mean, like that's what our typical speed is at, but what we're capable of producing can be 450,000 miles per hour.
This is what I looked up yesterday, and it says the speed was achieved by the Parker Solar Probe 364,660 miles per hour. So it's an unmanned craft. So we have a craft, I guess it's a space probe that has traveled 364,660 miles per hour. So
if it traveled in an hour, where would that put it? In 1 hour, where how far exact, like in terms of how far it got to, out through our galaxy, like how far would it have gotten?
In 1 hour, it would travel 364,660 miles.
I know, but like, what's as in a scale of what that is, like what's the distance between here and the moon? What's the distance between here and Mars? You know what I mean? Like, what's the comparable location of where it would have made in 1 hour?
The distance between the Earth and the moon is 238,900 miles. So
it would have made it past it if it would have started on Earth's surface. It could have made it past the moon within 1 hour.
Yeah, less than an hour.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess that's not technically true because it wasn't going 364,000 miles an hour when we launched it off the Earth. It's probably going that now through empty space because there's no wind resistance or anything.
But where's it going?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
How long do you think it would, if it was going? I don't want to think about that right now.
Okay, yeah, it's but the point is, what was the speed of light?
The speed of light is 670 million miles per hour.
Okay, well, yeah,
so it would
round
take
it off.
It would take if we were to send that probe to the nearest carbon-based planet, which is 4.5 light years away, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would take 4 times 670 million divided by 360,000. That's the amount of years it would take.
Wait, say that again.
670 million times 4.5.
Right. Okay.
Divided by 360,000.
It would take 8,375 years.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's what we're currently capable of as far as sending something out there.
Right. That's nuts.
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to have a probe that could send a signal and video feed from a planet that could potentially house us in a scenario where we needed to flee for 8,000 more years.
Right. That's when a probe traveling that fast would reach that planet.
Yeah. You know what year that is? That's
10,000.
That's the year 10,000.
Yeah.
That's a long way to go. We better hurry up and we better hurry up and figure something out.
Yeah, for real. So
10,000 years from now.
So the point that we were talking about yesterday was like you would have to be traveling at like light speed to make any reasonable time to any planet that we know of that could house human life, potentially, and that the closest Earth-like planet is 4.5 light years away. So it would take 8,300 years at our current capability, and so
to go at light speed. Never mind.
No, currently, yeah.
Our current propulsion rates right now, today, it would take us 8,000 years to get there.
Right. And let's just say like how many times, because this is what we were talking about, how many times we would need to multiply our capabilities to get to light speed. if you take the speed of light and divide it by 364,000 miles an hour, which is the current record, it would be 1,840 times our capability currently.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were just the point is to shorten it down. That is not impossible, but
it's mathematically possible.
It's mathematically possible. I don't think that we will ever achieve the speed of light, but if we could, then we would need to multiply our current capabilities by 1,840. Like, we would need to go 1,840 times faster than the fastest thing that we've ever recorded that we made. And so, point is, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, but it is ridiculous. And so, the point of saying all that is, if we were to be contacted by aliens, if they were carbon based like us, or I mean, really any life form, they would be nearly godlike. Like, they would be able to manipulate pretty much every force of nature to be able to travel that fast, to manipulate gravity, to, bend space-time, to create wormholes and jump across the fabric of space-time to reach us. Or
okay, like that all makes sense, but when you put into context, like, they're able to go those speeds without doing those things.
But that's what we've been talking about.
They're able to travel that fast without doing that stuff. We've seen it. We have video footage proof of them doing that.
We don't have video proof of anything going at the speed of light, any craft. We don't.
Okay.
But I mean, we have video of craft moving very, very much faster, or a lot faster than what we're capable of, and making right angle turns and things like that, but not the speed of light, just very fast.
Yeah, and it would have it would appear that they're not bending space and time or doing otherworldly things.
Well, that's not true because of what I talked about before, the lack of a propulsion system. So if they were able to bend space-time using gravity, it would create, essentially it would pull 2 points in space closer together, which would make it appear like they were traveling from one point to the next instantaneously. And so if they were able to do that... But
wouldn't there be like a blink? Or a point where at some point it would appear that it had vanished from here and went to there, right?
I'm not sure because... I mean... I'm not sure because the way that I imagine
it's almost like you're walking through a door here and ending up through a door over here.
Right.
So that space between those two doors is empty.
Well, the way, if you think about, who was it who came up with this analogy? I think it was maybe Einstein when he talked about gravity. He said, imagine pulling like a blanket or a sheet and suspending it taut in air, so it's pulled pretty tight.
Yeah.
And then you put a bowling ball in the middle of it. Or first, when it's just pulled tight without the bowling ball, imagine you like roll a ball across it and it's just going to go straight across.
Yeah.
And then imagine putting a bowling ball in the middle and it sinks the middle down, and then you roll a ball across it again. It's going to change the trajectory of that ball because of gravity, and it's going to pull it in like a spiral, and like that's how Earth orbits around the sun. And so if you were able to essentially, like, thinking about that same concept, say you take 2 points in space and you put something extremely dense, or you're able to pull those 2 points together by some other means, imagine it would create a very deep dip. So say
Yeah.
you're traveling from here to here, and you bend everything in between into this very deep dip, and you were to travel from here to here with that decreased distance, I don't know if it would appear to your eye whether you went into the dip
Well, I
and
mean,
across, or if it was just like a blink
but you
across.
wouldn't be
I don't
going
know.
into the dip, because if you went in, if you traveled, okay, based on what you just said, all right.
No, I totally know where you're going with
Okay,
this. And
if you take a point like this and you bend it you bend it into a point, you're traveling from here to here. You're not traveling through this.
Yeah, you're right.
You're not traveling through that dip. You're traveling from this point to this point.
Right, because if you had to travel through the dip,
therefore,
it would negate it.
anyone who is unable to see that bend and that point to that point, that all they see is this empty space. So you wouldn't be, the person traveling from this point to that point wouldn't be seen in that empty space.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So it would appear that they would vanish from this point and end up in this point.
Yeah. I don't know if they saw that or not in these instances, but yeah, that's how it would work.
The part where you said that it in the video where it said where it vanished and then ended up at their base, that's possible.
Right.
That could be explained by, the warp thing. Right. Where it takes the warp from this point to this point. That could be explained in that sense, but the movement and the amount of speed it had before it did that, that's not explained.
Right, yeah. And the fact that it has no propulsion, because everything that we make accelerates by shooting something out the back of it.
Yeah.
This didn't do that. And so it's like, well, how does that work?
It's a technology that we don't have yet.
Exactly. They're thinking, is it like some sort of nuclear force? Is it,
it's not that it's
anti-gravity
It's
thing?
not that it's impossible. It's just something that we haven't thought of or created yet.
Right. And so the whole thing is weird.
Yeah.
But so essentially, like like the whole point that, I try to get to when we talk about this is like whatever is traveling intergalactically would have to be able to manipulate mass and gravity and all these things to create those two warp points, essentially creating a wormhole. Because if I'm not saying travel at the speed of light is impossible. Of course, I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think that I don't think that that's the most practical way to approach something.
Yeah. I mean, even in Star Wars and Star Trek, when they're going whatever, I don't remember what the term they use, but whenever they're
warp speed,
whatever, that's essentially what they're doing is they're creating a warp to where they can travel from here to here, and the wormhole or the warp thing looks like you're just passing through stars.
It's they're stretching space around them instead of traveling through it. They're pulling it. And I think that any alien race that would have that sort of manipulation over space-time, they would essentially be like gods. And so that
I don't think that I don't know. I don't like to think of it as them being gods. I think that they've maybe been around longer and they've developed technologies that we haven't thought of yet, and that they are able to do those things and we're not. I wouldn't consider them to be gods.
Well, I wouldn't consider them to be gods, but godlike. And what I mean by that is, have you heard the saying like things that like technology that you haven't seen before appears as if it's magic?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's like they would be so much more advanced that we would think of them as having godlike powers, like things that we think that only a godlike thing could do.
Yeah.
That's what like the most advanced alien civilization would have the power to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I don't mean they would be gods, but just like they would be able to do things that are beyond our imagination.
Yeah, I mean, like that. I mean, that makes sense. I just don't. like I think that we're at a stage where we can recognize that technology is responsible for a lot of things, and that I think that it's becoming more apparent that, you know, things that we cannot explain can be explained with more advanced technology than we're capable of.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, we know enough to know that certain things are possible, and we can calculate mathematically how the laws of nature can be manipulated, even if we don't have the power to do it ourselves currently. And that's pretty much, you know, since even before Einstein, but especially Einstein, that's a lot of what he was doing, was looking back at old equations and stuff and saying, well, you know, how can time fluctuate, you know, and how can essentially, like, his theory of general relativity and special relativity, we have known that space and time have this strange interconnection since Einstein and a little before. And so it's like, that seems to be the most likely method for intergalactic travel, is manipulation over space-time. And who knows if there's anything out there, because the universe is so expansive, like we've been talking about. Who knows if there's something out there that has that power? It's mathematically probable.
You know what's something that's cool to think about that's not quite as scary?
What?
Whatever is causing whatever these things are that are appearing, you know, on Earth that we can't explain, we're interesting enough for them to come visit us.
Yeah, have you heard the theories that they're just trying to keep us from blowing ourselves up with nuclear weapons?
I mean, they should.
Yeah. And I've also read articles. We talked about this very briefly before.
It's getting out of hand.
Yeah. I've heard articles about, like, alien craft visiting military bases and shutting down their weapons systems and, like, nuclear systems. And the people who are, like, on duty are like, they report to their superior and they're like, hey, they're back again. And, like, they visit them night after night after night, like, kind of just messing with them and making their communication systems and weapon systems malfunction. And that's pretty weird.
Is it? But, like, it would be weird to a certain extent, but if we have plans to use that stuff, like if we have, like, a set plan and or date that we plan on using those things, and these things are coming and they're like, you're not gonna do that, don't do that. Like, I can see if, like, maybe, like, hey, we're gonna send this thing out today, and then that thing shows up, and it's like, no, you're not. that would be a for sure, like, sign that,
right.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. Have you heard, like, any of the reasoning why civilizations don't advance to the point where they're capable of intergalactic space travel? Like, there's, like, it's kind of the same thing as, like, the Fermi paradox to a certain extent. That's part of it.
It's kind of like just our nature to destroy ourselves.
Yeah, that's one. Like, one of the reasons is there's some sort of natural disaster that wipes a planet out, you know, an extinction event. The second is, you know, that we are self-destructive and we would destroy ourselves with, like, nuclear weapons.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, probably.
That's what's going to happen. We're not going to get hit by a meteor.
Yeah.
I mean, the Earth's already been hit by a meteor and survived. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think the more likely scenario is we're going to blow ourselves up.
Yeah, probably.
We're already there. We're already at that point.
I can't remember what the other excuse me. I can't think of what the other scenarios are, but essentially it's some sort of like theoretical barrier, and it's saying if you can overcome these scenarios, don't blow yourself up, don't get hit by an asteroid or some other natural disaster, then you are the type of civilization that is likely to develop colonies throughout your universe. So
I think we're definitely capable of doing that, but we got to get our head out of our butts.
Mm-hmm.
We're so worried about what this person thinks and what that person thinks that we're unable to progress.
See, I was listening to something yesterday, and it kind of talked about how that's not necessarily true, but that's how it appears over the long period of time. Like, even though there are periods of injustice, those periods of injustice, like World War II, they manifest a threat, and then humanity moves against that threat, and through that move against the threat to neutralize it, innovation takes place. And if you look at all the technological innovation that came after World War II, and because of World War II, we advanced technologically so much. And so it's like this rebalancing of injustice versus justice, and it drives materialism. And so we, want the newest, best thing.
Yeah.
And so it keeps this driving force going.
I wasn't talking about technological progress. I'm talking about species progress.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But I'm just saying progress is in general for the human race. We're making better things all the time.
We're still, you can look back however long you want, but there's always a case of this civilization is doing something that this civilization doesn't like, and now we're going to destroy that civilization.
Yeah.
And it's still happening today.
It is, but overall, it's gotten better. I was reading something that was saying, like, even just like 100 years ago in the United States, something happened. This judge, he was like bribed to make an unjust ruling against someone who who was going to be convicted of a crime, and the court knew about this, or like I guess his community knew about this bribe, and they skinned the guy alive and then made a chair out of his skin, and then his son took over, and they made his son, who took over his seat as judge, sit in that chair made of his dad's skin. And so, like, if you look at, like, that's just one example, of course, but overall, our tendency to move away, cruelty has gotten much better over time. And so I think that we are headed in the right direction, but that doesn't mean there aren't periods of injustice and terrible atrocities. But that goes back to what I was saying. Like, there's always going to be the flux and flow.
If you, we're not talking about individual things. Yeah. We're talking about, like, if you look at World War I, World War II, and then you look at, the Russian, all the problems we've had with Russia, back in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, all that kind of stuff. Then you have Vietnam. You got right now Russia versus Ukraine, that situation. Like, it's inevitable that someone has a problem and the whole world has to be involved in it.
Until they don't.
And that's what I'm saying. We need to get to that point.
No, I know. I'm not arguing with you at all. I'm just saying, just because there's conflict now and has been conflict doesn't mean there always will be. And I don't really believe like a utopia exists. There's always going to be someone crazy who's going to try to do something.
I mean, yeah. But
once we Once we have the technology to overcome that.
We all live on planet Earth. Why can't we all agree on something?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we all live? Why can't we all be planet Earth? Why does it have to be so separated?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to be this country and that country? And then, this country's doing this and we don't like that. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, we're all here. Let's all work towards one goal. You know what I'm saying?
I think eventually through technology, the human race, if we don't destroy ourselves first, will achieve that. I think that technology and the access to information will eventually overcome those things, but it's not going to be anytime soon. We're still pretty barbaric, but eventually, like down the line, if we don't destroy ourselves, I think that we could overcome that and view ourselves as one species. But yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon at all.
Not in my lifetime, at least. Like,
probably not in our grandkids' lifetimes.
It's so silly.
It is.
Like, why if we can come out and say, why can't we do this, then why can't people at least think about it?
A conspiracy theorist would say that the threat of aliens and that information being released to the public is what would be used to establish a new world order. That would be the threat of an alien invasion would be what brings Earth together.
But it won't.
Probably not. It depends on how serious the threat was. If there was a space fleet of aliens outside of Earth, we'd probably be able to do it.
Here's my thing. Why is it if that UAP, right, was why is it like messing with like Air Force people and then going to their base and shutting down their navigation systems instead of doing that to Russia and scaring the crap out of them? You know what I'm saying?
Well, who says they're not?
Where's the reports?
You think Russia's going to tell anyone anything?
I would think that they would consider it, like, even if they didn't consider it to be alien, they would consider it to be somebody doing something to them. And why aren't they retaliating against it at least?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that they are or aren't.
They would at least
anything.
be like, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you? Okay, we're sending nukes. At least I feel like if it were happening to them, they would at least try to open up, like try to find out if someone did it. In which case, someone somewhere knows that that's happening to Russia.
Yeah, and I mean, for all we know, that is happening, but if the Pentagon has released these videos and the people of the United States are just now finding out about these like potential threats and stuff, there's no telling what they're still hiding. Like, it's not like they came out and gave us everything.
So, no, I mean, why would they?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that is happening.
And
maybe
you got that guy too, sitting there and say, we don't know what this stuff is either. We want to know just as much as you do. You're a liar. You know what it is.
Possibly.
You ain't telling us nothing.
Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, if they're willing to show us those videos and say, like, hey, look at how crazy this is, what are they not showing us? There's always going to be something we don't know.
They are going to look at and do as much research and theorizing as they possibly can before they're like, we don't know.
Yeah, for real.
So there's probably things that they have control over that they've been looking at for years, and we have no idea it even exists.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the whole. I'm telling you, dude, you got to go listen to some Bob Lazar interviews and look at like what that guy says and what he's been saying for 40 years. He just talks about how he worked at the base, and he saw all these things. He says he saw several alien craft that they were reverse engineering, and they had different departments that were compartmentalized so that they couldn't, like, the people who were working there,
They couldn't compare notes.
they couldn't compare notes and figure out what they were doing or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he says that, like, once he started coming out, like, they essentially erased his
Who's Bob Lazar? Can you describe what he looks like? Does he look like a big old muscly guy?
No, he looks like a nerd.
Okay.
Which, I mean, like,
there's
what would you
a
expect?
guy that I had, like, a documentary that I watched a long time ago, and he was like this. He looked okay. All right.
I just
have you seen
showed him a picture of Bob Lazar, by the way.
What is that? There's like an old movie that's like about nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes. And there's like that big old muscly nerd.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Okay, well there's like this big old, like, bodybuilder dude, and he's like wearing glasses, and he's like a nerd. Like, he's a straight up nerd, but he looks like a bodybuilder. All right, so the guy that I'm talking about looks like him.
Oh, okay.
And he has literally come out, and he's like, the government doesn't want me talking about this stuff. Here's the stuff I've been involved in. I've been commissioned by the government to do these things, blah 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 blah. And he's talks about how he had, at some point he had did some research or investigations or whatever on an actual alien body.
Right.
And it was like this little teeny weeny tiny brown gold looking alien, and it looked like what you would think it would look like. It was like, it had an enlarged cranium, and it had like the typical, like, gray, look, but it was tiny. It was super, it was like the size of a biscuit. All right.
You must be hungry for some breakfast.
I am kind of hungry, but anyway, like, he had shown pictures of it and stuff like that, and it's like, how can you say that that's fake? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Kinda, yeah.
It's like, if the government is willing to put pressure on you to keep your mouth shut about something, then there has to be some sort of truth there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not convinced that everything that he is talking about is real, but why would he lie about half the things, and tell the truth about the other half? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's either all a lie, or it's all the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt some stuff going on. And I guess to wrap this up, we talked about how we're going to conclude this, and after we've talked about it for over 3 hours, where do we stand on it?
I don't feel like we stand, or me personally, I don't stand any differently than I did before this started.
Can you give me a brief overview of what you think?
I think that I'm still in the stages of unknowing of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The more I learn, the more it doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly. I would say, for me, based on my religious views and my scientific views and what I understand about everything, literally the only thing that I can say when presented with everything we've talked about and more is that it is mathematically probable that life exists elsewhere in the universe, and simultaneously it is also true that we have no convincing proof. So I'm also an unknown. I mean, that's subject to change at any time when I'm presented with new evidence, but right now we just don't know.
Yeah, there's too many things that are just unexplained, and there's too many things that are just out there, but we don't know if it's real or not. We don't know We don't know anything.
And also, that's not even taking into consideration the things that are all around us that we don't have the instruments to measure. Like, there's so much. We've barely scratched the surface, and our human ego wants to think that we're on the verge of greatness and controlling and understanding everything that we come into contact with.
And then something comes
It's
along.
not
It's like
true. Exactly. There's always
don't send that nuke.
there's always unexplained things that we either see with our eyes, or things that people see in the sky, and now the military is coming forth with all this stuff. There's always going to be something that we can't quite grasp. And yeah, until we know everything, literally know everything, who can say what's possible and what's happened?
And I
what's
think
out
that
there.
leads us into our next subject.
What's that?
I think we should talk about our capabilities, our brains and its functions, and what it's capable of, and what it could be potentially capable of. I think that should be the subject of our next roundabout.
Okay, we can do that. Now, are we talking like psychic powers, or what
All
are we
of the
talking?
above.
Projection? Okay,
All of the above.
astral projection.
I don't want to get into it right now.
Right.
But there are things
Well, that's
that
exciting.
I've been looking into that are very interesting to me, and that things that are happening that people are capable of, and they've been proved to be capable of. And I think those are very interesting topics, and I think that'd be cool to talk about next.
Yeah, we'll do that next episode. That'll be fun. There's no doubt we're gonna have to talk about Stranger Things then.
Okay.
Because that's a big theme in that whole show. So
I mean, yeah,
that'll be cool.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good way to compare of what the research that's happening currently to things that we've actually seen. So
Straight up, dude, I can't wait to talk about that. There's so much to dive into with Project MK Ultra.
I don't even know what that is, but I'm gonna have to find out.
I will send you a list of things that I personally know about. You should probably do the same for me.
Okay.
We'll do our research and bring it this next week so that we can be prepared to talk about that.
Okay.
That's so
Is
exciting.
MK Ultra the research development thing where they're trying to find a way to expand our brain, or like send electrodes to open up things in our brains?
What Project MK Ultra? What?
We should talk
about it next week.
Let's wait.
That's a good cliffhanger, though. Oh man, it's good though.
All right.
It's good. So, I guess that concludes this 3-part series. That was really fun, and
I enjoyed it a lot.
it was, this is the reason that I'm glad we do the podcast, because I feel like we have so much to talk about. And when you talk about sitting down for 3 hours and talking about aliens, I feel like to some people it may seem like a daunting task, not to listen to, but to talk about. And I feel like that we could still continue on. I feel like there's so much that we could talk about. So I'm glad that we were able to get these thoughts out there. I finally got to talk about, how my viewpoints on religion and science come together to form this weird theory about interdimensionality and all these things. And it's just been a lot of fun. So if you, the listener, has been, along with us the entire journey, we just want to say thank you for listening to this. We know it's been a wild ride, and we hope that if nothing else, it's sparked some, thought as to what's possible concerning alien life and technology, and we hope that it has made you think about our place in the universe a little bit. And yeah, it's been a good time. So thank you for listening to it.
Yes, thank you.
I guess we will talk to you guys next week about some crazy psychic brain stuff.
Bye.
Bye.